Hello guys, this is Justin Beerley. This is Module 12, Tort Liability for EDL 850 School Law. Tort law and tort liability. Tort law is based on the legal premise that individuals are liable for the consequences of their own conduct or lack of conduct when such actions result in injury due to others. Tort liability is a teacher can be held individually liable for the student's injuries and risk a court award of monetary damage. There are two types of educational tort laws, intentional and negligent. Intentional tort could be assault, battery, false imprisonment, or defamation. Negligent tort is unintentional, is a failure to protect students from dangers in a supervising position. Case 1, Brewington versus the City of Philadelphia. This is in Pennsylvania. A student ran into a concrete wall with no padding during a physical education class. While he was running, he tripped, fell, and causing him to propel into the wall at the end of the gym. He hit his head and cut his forehead as well. He also lost consciousness. No padding covered the gym wall, which was made of concrete. He was later diagnosed with a concussion, was absent from school for 6 weeks, and he continued to experience headaches and memory problems years later. Court found that the unpadded concrete wall, which causes the student's injuries, constituted as a real property in the school's possession. Property was found unsafe for activities for which it was regularly used. Reactive measures. They could have provided alternative educational opportunities for a student while out of the classroom. Obviously, they could have added padding to the concrete wall. Preventative measures had pads installed covering the concrete wall. Should have understood the negligence of an unpadded wall for activities such which it was regularly used. Maintaining your classroom or your lab, in this case the gymnasium. Case number 2, Barnett versus Caldwell. This is in Georgia. A teacher went to the restroom, leaving a high school class unsupervised. She told another teacher to listen out for her class, as their classes were just divided by a bifold wall. Students engaged in horseplay, causing one of them to fall on the floor, while the other fell on top of him onto the floor as well. This left the student unconscious. Teacher returned 15 minutes later and immediately called 911. The student later died by blood loss resulting from a laceration of a major vessel caused by a dislocated collarbone. Parents of the student filed a complaint that the teacher was liable in individual capacity of wrongful death because of negligence in supervising her classroom. There was no evidence of malice or intent to injure. She was entitled official immunity because her acts were the product of discretionary decisions concerning the supervision of students. She told that other teacher to kind of listen out, so she was found not guilty. Reactive measures. The school district could implement a policy by preventing a class from being unsupervised at any time. Preventative measures could have been had the resource officer or any other staff member come watch her classroom while she was in the restroom. The resource officer was just in the hallway and she could have got him. 2, could have went to the restroom while on the break, planning period, in between periods, while students were in recess. Basically, she could have went to the restroom when she didn't have students. Perform your duties by making sure someone was supervising her class or by staying. Case number 3, Munn versus Hotchkiss. This happened in Connecticut. The school was in Connecticut, I should say. The student was bitten by a tick while hiking in a forest mountain in China during a summer trip organized by Hotchkiss School. The tick transmitted encephalitis, which caused serious neurological damage, leaving her permanently unable to speak. The parent sued for negligence in failing to warn them that the trip might bring her into contact with disease-bearing insects and in failing to take steps to ensure that protective measures such as using insect repellent, wearing proper clothing, and while wearing proper clothing while walking in forested areas, and later checking for ticks. The court ruled that the school owes a duty of care to minor students who is on the school trip to exercise reasonable care to protect her against physical injuries that might arise in the course of such a trip. The jury awarded $41 million in this case. Some reactive measures. Probably the field trip is going to be suspended, no longer take the summer trip to China. Secure a field trip policy about disease-bearing insects and how to prevent these insects from infecting students. Preventative, warn students that the trip might bring her into contact with these disease-bearing insects. Use insect repellent. Wear proper clothing while walking, and check for ticks after you get done walking in these forested areas. Number 3, provide appropriate instructions. Anticipate potential and foreseeable dangers, which sometimes is really hard to do in this case. Case number 4, Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids. This happened in Iowa. A 9th grade female special ed student skipped the last period of the school day. She left school with a 12th grade special ed student who happened to be 19 years old, who was actually done for the day. They ended up at the 3rd special ed student's garage, whom also skipped the last period of the school day as well. While at the 3rd special ed student's, he saw through a window of the garage that the 19-year-old was raping the 9th grade-old girl. The 3rd special ed student shot a BB gun at the 19-year-old, trying to get him to stop through the window. The mother of the special educational students sued the school district for damages the student sustained in after-hours, off-campus sexual assault by another student. The teacher in this case marked the student gone in the attendance system on the computer, but did not notify anyone else. The computer system notifies parents, but not for several hours after the fact. The school district was found negligent in failing to adequately supervise the special ed student and awarded damages of $500,000. Reactive measures. The teacher could have easily called the parent right away, considering the circumstances of one teacher to one student ratio, and in this situation also being a special education student. Preventative measures. Has the staff member check attendance in the office at the beginning of the period. If a teacher marks a student absent in the computer system, the office will need to call students' parents right away to figure out where they are. Perform your duties. Supervision of the student. Number 3, do what is best for a student. Students should have been in school to avoid potential danger. Okay, case number 5, Frederickson versus Denver. Colorado teacher was terminated from her employment as a tenured teacher. The teacher on previous days had grabbed this student's forearm and had also grabbed his shoulders and shook him gently. Principal told her that physically disciplining a child is behavior that is unacceptable and must cease. Alternative discipline actions were discussed at that time. The student was passing a note. The teacher had slapped their hand twice to keep the note from being passed, as she could not grab it. As the teacher walked down the aisle, she had been struck by the student, but the teacher never felt threatened. The teacher turned around with an open hand, slapped the student on the back lightly, like a tap. She struck the student because of her belief that this is necessary to show the students that they could not get away with hitting a teacher. Principals and teachers are responsible for the maintenance of order within the classroom and the school. Authority to use reasonable and prudent force and restraint for the purposes of maintaining order. Jury awarded the teacher to be reinstated as a tenured teacher with full back pay and benefits. Reactive measures. Secure school policy and discipline action when a student hits a teacher. Secure a school policy and disciplinary action when a teacher physically touches a student. Preventative measures. Remove the student from this teacher's classroom. That would have been the most simple. Number 2, if having problems with a specific student, notify a school leader to discipline the student instead of a frustrated teacher. Number 3, adhere to school discipline rules. Don't make up your own rules. Number 4, avoid touchy situations. The bottom line, all school staff and child supervisors have the responsibility to anticipate potential and foreseeable dangers and take responsible precautions to protect children from those dangers. These are some professional ethics. These are some things that, as a teacher, you should follow to help you keep safe from tort liability laws. Number 1 is perform your duties. 2, provide appropriate instructions. 3, adhere to school discipline rules. Don't make up your own. Number 4, avoid touchy situations. Number 5, keep written discipline notes and reports. Number 6, document reports and maintenance issues. Number 7, maintain your classroom/lab.